do most of our work taking corporate groups to battlefields, and we use the battlefield. In the Army, you would call it a staff ride, but we do what would be termed a corporate staff ride.
David Fivecoat, a West Point graduate and retired Army officer, translates battlefield decisions into modern leadership, guiding executives from history's greatest battles to today's toughest boardroom challenges.
I call it a leadership experience, and it's where you go to leaders made decisions and you talk about the historic aspect, and then you talk about a modern leadership. Work really hard to try to get the corporate group to talk about how do they actually apply.
What's up, everybody? This is Ryan Van Ornum back with another edition of the Milpreneur podcast. Today, we are brought to you by our sponsor, Cynergist. It's your go-to scalable operations company. It helps you grow exponentially faster at a fraction of the cost. Go check out Cynergist.com for more information. While you're at it, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to all of our YouTube and Spotify channels to make sure that you are the first to receive the new episodes of Milpreneur podcast as they come out. On today's episode, I'm super excited to have David Fivecoat on. David, how are you today?
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me on your podcast. Really looking forward to it.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you on, sir. I'm so excited to get into your backstory and what you got going on with everything that you have. Man, you're a speaker, author, coach. You help veterans with many different businesses. Dude, I can't wait. So let's just jump into it, shall we?
Yeah, let's go.
Absolutely, man. Well, dude, tell us a little bit about your backstory, man. Tell us a little bit about your military career.
Yeah, I grew up in Delaware, Ohio, which is right north of Columbus, and decided to go to West Point. There really wasn't a military tradition in my family, but I loved reading military history. And of course, all the World War II generals on the U.S. side went to West Point. And so it was sort of like a neat fit. Went to West Point, got commissioned as an infantry officer, did 24 years in a variety of light and mech assignments, including the 101st, the 82nd Airborne Division, 3rd Infantry Division, and then eventually commanded the Airborne and Ranger Training Brigade here at Fort Benning, Georgia. Along the way, I did 3 trips to Iraq, a trip to Afghanistan, a trip to Kosovo, a trip to Bosnia, and a year in Korea. So I got to see a good part of the world, and it was a lot of fun while I was in, and really enjoyed the experience of serving the country and trying to help grow leaders while I was in the service.
Man, thank you for your service and telling us a little bit about your time in. Is there a time that you knew you're like, hey, I want to be a lifer? Or did you go in thinking you were going to be a lifer?
I did not go in thinking I was going to be a lifer. West Point at that point in time had a 5-year service commitment on the back end, along with another 3 years in the reserves. And I spent my whole career going, hey, I'm going to stay in till it stops being fun.
Right.
And it kept being fun until I was a colonel and I was 24 years in, and the Army wanted me to move, and I didn't think it was the smartest decision for me or my daughter for me to move at that point in time, and said, okay, I will depart and go out and do something else. Interestingly, well, I was going to say
real. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say for all your listeners that are out there that are in the Army, I have been out since 2017, and remarkably, the Army has not called me once since I've been out to ask my opinion on anything. Or to ask me for anything. And so just realize that once you depart the service, you're not going to get another call.
Right. You're like, it's been real, it's been fun, but it has not been real fun. Time to go.
Right.
So, I mean, you got a lot of stuff happening, tell us about TFCG, man. What do you got going on now?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit more of the backstory before we get here. When I first got out, I went and worked for another company for 3 years. And for folks that are still that are listening to you about and thinking about how to be a milpreneur, I would encourage them to go do something else for a year or two after their service. Because hanging your own shingle in whatever you want to do is especially hard right out of the military. It could not be as successful as it is today if I had not had that other experience, because I got to work in another small company. I got to see how another small company works. and it was already established. They had systems and processes in place and was a functioning business and was making a profit and doing all those things that when you hang your own shingle out and say, "Hey, I want to, start my own business," there's a lot of things you don't know, and there's a lot of things that you think you know from the military, which now having worked out in the corporate world almost 9 years, I didn't know at the get-go. And it just helps to have that little bit of cushion for a year or two to learn how a real business works. You've got all this military experience, and a lot of it is portable and will help you be a successful entrepreneur. But you do need a little bit of perspective on what a real business looks like. And I don't think I
Yes.
could have I don't think I could have created a real business if I hadn't had that experience in another business.
I would agree with that. I have a real estate team in Colorado for the last 10 years after I, exited and honorably discharged from the Air Force. And, like having that piece of it. And then also I was a teacher. So then, having the understanding of how like whether it's like municipalities or corporations, however it is, like every leadership side is different, and understanding and learning from those has been extremely beneficial to what I'm in now. So I concur 100% on that.
Yeah. Well, good. But all that being said, I eventually founded my own company, which is TFCG in 2020. And
Mhm.
for the first 3 years of TFCG's life, well, I wrote a book, which was kind of my COVID project. I would also encourage everybody that's out there that's thinking about starting their own company to not start a company in March of 2020. It is not the best time. That was not the best time in the business environment to go out on my own. It was a lean 2020, had some very lean quarters in 2020, but it is possible to persevere and overcome. And with a lot of hard work, got some momentum going in fourth quarter of 2020, and then rode that into a pretty good year in 2021. But I was doing TFCG at that point in time was a solo entrepreneur endeavor. I was doing executive coaching, some keynote speaking, and some business consulting. And frankly, I was willing at that point in time, in the depths of COVID, I was willing to take just about anything that anybody would throw at me. A guy needed some help doing inventory at 15 locations. They had never done a formal inventory before. And so I drove or flew to his 15 locations and counted fuel filters and fan belts and everything else that was there. Quickly found that inventory management is not my passion, but I can show up, but I can show up with a clipboard and count with the best of them. And so that was a fun experience. Got to see that side of things and learn and grew over those 3 years. Finally, in 2024, I pivoted the company, and I think that's another thing that folks out there need to hear, that it's okay to pivot. And in 2024, the company, I'll call it E 2.0, took a different direction, and we now do most of our work taking corporate groups to battlefields. And we use the battlefield. In the Army, you would call it a staff ride. I know the Air Force does the same thing,
Yeah.
but we do what would be termed a corporate staff ride. I call it a leadership experience, and it's where you go to Gettysburg or Normandy or the Alamo or wherever, and you stand on the ground where leaders made decisions, and you talk about the historic aspect of it, and then you talk about a modern leadership tenet that can be applied. And then then I work really hard to try to get the corporate group to talk about how do they actually apply whatever we're talking about to their situation in life. Was lucky enough to take 11 different groups to battlefields this year. Next year, I think I'm going to double it and get to 20. Was able to help 610 executives this year through all of our leadership development programs. And we're looking to hit 1,000 next year. So it's a good time to be part of TFCG and helping to build leaders out there using some of the experiences that you and I had in the military.
Absolutely. That's phenomenal, man. And like, is there any, I always find it so interesting with entrepreneurs and business owners. It always seems like there's several of these like little cases of like one conversation that like you said, causes a little bit of a pivot that opens up another door. Is there an example that you can share of one of those stories that you're like, man, I had this conversation with this guy and look what happened?
Yeah, yeah. I, actually, the story that comes to mind, and I'm interested to see what you think. I struggle as a solo entrepreneur figuring out exactly what marketing is actually bringing in the business because
Hmm.
I do a bunch. I'm on LinkedIn. I post weekly on LinkedIn. I try to go on podcasts. I try to do three a quarter. I do Google ads. I do other marketing concepts, but it's always a struggle when a new client comes in, and it's tough to point back and say, oh yeah, that LinkedIn post that I did there was what drove that person to finally pick the phone up and call me or send an email. Or
Sure.
that Google ad really did it, or that email that I sent out on MailChimp really did it. Maybe you have a clear funnel on how you figure how you're getting clients, but I sort of struggle on that.
I think a lot of that is just like we have individualized funnels for all of our like
Hmm.
places so we can kind of see if they click on a link and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But it even to that point, if they've seen it several places, a lot of times what we start seeing is that we see overlap, that they may be hitting our website based on a social media post, and then they may be seeing they finally, they may reach out from a text message that we get. So it's like an all-encompassing side of things. But yes, what we've kind of put together is like everything has a tag to it. And
Hmm.
when you have those tags associated with it, we can kind of track that a little bit more. But yeah, it's still not 100%.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's smart. I don't have my stuff tagged, so maybe that's something I got to do in 2026.
absolutely. Well, it's always a process with this stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
the amount of processes that you got to put in place as that small business owner, it's challenging because I always feel like that guy that's spinning the plates. And you
yes,
run over here and you spin the marketing plate for a little while, and then you do some business development and spin that one for a while, and then you've got to go execute, and you got to go do that one for a while, and then you look back and the marketing one's ready to fall off, and you got to run back and get it going, or hiring new
exactly.
people, bringing on new people to the company, or whatever the new challenge is.
100%. Totally agree on that, man. So, hey, one of the things that we do on this podcast is we get to know the founder, the CEO type on a
Okay.
personal level. Are you open to a little rapid fire questioning?
All right, bring it on.
All right. Hey, what's your favorite book that you're reading right now?
I just read this book called The Seven Powers, which is about the seven strategies that enduring businesses can use in order to make sure that they continue long term. And it's like process power and counter positioning and brand and scale. There's seven of them. It was a tough read, but it's really got me thinking intellectually about the companies that I'm working with and one, what their power is, and one and two, what mine is. And mine, I go back and forth on, it's branding or cornered resource, but it's kind it helps to know what you are actually trying to use as a strategy so you can continue to reinforce that and grow.
I love
So
that, man.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Hey, what was the first job you ever had?
The first job I really had was a newspaper delivery boy. I delivered the Delaware Gazette, which was an afternoon paper, and then I eventually switched to the Columbus Dispatch, which was a morning paper.
Nice.
So those were the first two jobs I had. And then in high school, the only real job I had was I was a busboy at a restaurant for 2 years.
There you go. There you go. I actually did the newspaper and the busboy thing myself. Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird. I am still getting my alarm went off at 5:30 this morning. I was up and at 'em, drinking coffee, taking the dog for a walk, and then getting my workout in. And then I get more done in the morning than I do in the night. And so I still embrace, that whole army thing of we do more before 9 a.m. than most people do all day.
Hoorah. That's what I'm talking about. What's on your workout playlist when you're talking about your workouts, man?
So I'm a cyclist,
Okay.
and I tend to not make playlists. When I'm walking the dog, I listen to podcasts. The one I'll plug on the podcast side is Acquired, which is these two guys that do deep dives into great businesses.
Nice.
I highly encourage your entrepreneur group out there to start listening to it. It is a
Yes.
time commitment. I never thought I would buckle down and listen to 4-hour podcasts, but I like, they're genuinely excited about these businesses. They do deep dives. They did Coke this year. They only do 8 a year. They did Coke, Costco, Trader Joe's, and something else. And so it's bespoke. They spend a whole month researching it, and then the two of them go back and forth, and it's sort of unscripted, and they're genuinely, interested in what the other guy found about the company. So
That's awesome,
I'll,
man.
I'll plug that.
Heck yeah. Hey, do you have a favorite cheat meal?
I have a weak spot for pizza.
There you go.
Definitely enjoy a good pizza.
What's your go-to?
My go-to meal at, when I go out though, is I like a good steak. And
There you go.
I don't grill very well, so I let the professionals prepare my steak.
I dig it, man. Hey, if you had a superpower like the Avengers or X-Men, what would it be?
Well, my favorite Avenger, or not Avenger, but X-Men of all time, of course, is Wolverine. So I guess
My
that
man.
means, but of course that means I want, well, and as a 54-year-old, I want his healing power. Uh,
Yes.
so 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 all that stuff isn't painful after the good workouts, and and he can't get drunk because his body regenerates after the alcohol.
Wolverine is the man. I love that one. Very cool. Hey, if you could have dinner with a historical figure, either living or deceased, who would it be?
Good, good question. I think lately I've been doing a really deep dive and just took a group to Normandy. And so I'm going to say Dwight Eisenhower, because I think, his experience as general during World War II and then a president afterwards would just be fascinating to sit down and talk to him for a meal.
And he created all of the highway systems in America.
Right, right. The
We wouldn't be
Eisenhower
where
Highway.
we
Yeah,
exactly. I love it, man. Very
yeah.
cool.
Well, and
Man,
then
you absolutely
you guys out in Nebraska, I think you do 80 once you get out of the towns, or is it
it's 75. Yeah, I think Kansas is 80 on
okay?
70. Yeah,
We're
yeah.
we're still 70 miles per hour here in Georgia. So enjoy your portion of the Eisenhower highway system.
Like anyone in Georgia ever drives only 70. Come on, be real. Well,
We might be a few miles above 70, but at least you know what the legal limit is.
exactly, exactly. Well, David, you absolutely crushed the rapid fire section. Thank you for being so open and honest, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, thanks, enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Hey, I got a couple last questions for you. Like, if you could go back in time, like as a time traveler, and you
Mhm.
could go into meeting yourself, what's one piece of advice you'd give yourself
Well, like how far back am I going?
to the time before you went into the military?
Oh wow. That I don't know. That's a tough question. I would say I think I've done a lot of good things,
Mhm.
with the military side. I've kept in touch with friends that I've made along the way. I would say, make sure to have some fun, because by the time the fourth combat deployment rolled around, it was starting to be a little bit of a drag.
Yes,
And I know I wasn't getting, actually the one I would actually say now is, sorry, I'll change my answer here.
absolutely.
Maybe you'll edit out the indecision there, but I'll say
Yes.
get more sleep while you were in the army, because I was living on like less than, you go to bed at 10. I had to get up at 4:30 to make PT by 5:30. And so I was living on like 6 hours of sleep for the last 10 years I was in the army. And I know that did not make me the most pleasant person to be around. And so my advice to myself as a younger person is make sure you get enough sleep while you're in the army.
What are you talking about? The army is nothing. They're fueled by like energy drinks and rage. That
Right, right. No, caffeine and hatred.
exactly, exactly. You knew exactly where I was going with that. So awesome job, man. If people are interested in your services, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the fivecoatconsultinggroup.com, we're out there on the web. Please come visit the website. We offer 20 different battlefield and other locations across the US and Europe. We have one out in Pearl Harbor, we have Gettysburg, we have the Alamo, we have Little Bighorn, Antietam, Chickamauga, Chattanooga, and then in Europe we've got Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, and Operation Market Garden, along with the Churchill War Rooms in Waterloo. So would love to have somebody out there that would be interested in coming to a battlefield. If that isn't your thing and you need some executive coaching, please also reach out to us. We've got a group of certified executive coaches. We'd love to help you as you either transition out of the Army or transition into a new job or try to get your business up. We can help you as a coach, be a sounding board, accountability tool for you.
Awesome. David Fivecoat, it's been amazing having you on the Milpreneur podcast today, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thanks, Ryan, for having me. Really enjoyed this.
Absolutely. Ryan Van Ornum signing off from the Milpreneur podcast. Until the next time, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe in our Spotify and YouTube channels. Thank you so much again to our guest, David Fivecoat, today. Until the next time, stay blessed, everyone. Take care.